small businesses miss?
Well, what I've noticed, especially with respect to the small businesses that we've been dealing with, is they have financial capital. And, before you establish your business, you should also have a business plan, both short-term and long-term business plan for your company, not just for SMEs, any company, period. You should have your vision, you should have your mission, you should have your purpose. You should make sure that you're focused so that you don't get thrown away, if you're setting up. And let me also have a caveat. Although I'm a lawyer, I'm not giving any legal advice in this forum. You remember I told you that. I'm just having a discussion with you. Yes, so don't say that, so I have that disclaimer. Yes.
Dr. Val, we got a guest coming on too, and she should be here. But before you move on, when you talk about that plan, what is that? I think, no, you said an idea. Most people have an idea and it gets lost because that is as far as it will ever go, is in that idea. They are not, they may be well thought out, they may be well formed, but I think it's that piece between the idea and the next step, they get lost. Why is that?
Yes. I guess sometimes people lose focus. Either you have an idea, you're talking to so many relatives about your idea, because sometimes your idea stems from your passion. So you don't want to get thrown off by having too many conversations. Put it down. Put down whatever idea you have. Then what you do is you start compartmentalizing your idea into what you think is the demand out there, finding your niche. You know what I mean? So you have an idea. Is this idea worth pursuing? Okay, does it stem from my passion? What's my vision with this idea? Where am I going to go with it? Okay, is it a for-profit or is it a non-profit? Do I want to include relatives? This will help you determine the form of business you're going to have, right? Is it a closed corp? Is it going to be an LLC? Is it going to be an LLP? Is it going to be a sole proprietorship, in which case I don't need anybody? I just want to set up a mom and pop grocery store and it's just me alone. I don't like my relatives, or I like my relatives, whatever, or I like my friend. Or do I want a partnership? Do I want to be a passive partner? Do I want somebody who's going to be investing and not participate? It depends on the kind of, so starting with the idea is a good thing because that's probably coming from a good place, your passion. And then you want to sort of write it down. If you have a journal, which I encourage people to do, sort of don't, be concerned if it's scattered all over the place, because that's the whole point. You probably have so many things you're thinking about what you want to do, but you also want to source the community. What's the demographics? Who are the consumers you're targeting, right? Who are your competitors out there?
Right.
What are they doing? Is there a way you're going to find a niche? It's not easy. And don't think you're going to satisfy all those needs in terms of the answers to the questions all at once. You can start and you can fine tune as you go along, right? So you get an attorney that will help you with the process, an accountant, that will also help you with the accounting side of things, right?
Dr. Val, real quick for a second, I want to bring on, thank you, Ms. Gina Hitchens, for coming on, a financial planner, a public speaker, and I just want to say thank you for coming on Bridges Live with us. We're talking about global economic development, and please introduce yourself. Please, Ms. Gina.
I'd like to start by thanking you, Dr. Paul, for the invitation. I always consider it an honor to be in the company of people, like-minded individuals that's just looking to make a change and looking to use their voice and their experiences to make a difference in the world. So I do thank you for the invitation, and I'm looking forward to the conversations with Dr. Val as well. I am
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you also. I am Gina Hitchens. I am a speaker, trainer, financial planner, and coach. And I am independent business owner. I launched my GHG financial planning in 2008. and it is a full service insurance, investment, and financial planning services firm. And I specialize, when you're talking, Dr. Val, about your niche and your passion, I am most passionate about working with women and small business owners. And I guess just because I fit both of those demographics, I know that we have a lot of hurdles that we have to overcome. So I'm very passionate about that. And I do a lot of work site and community-based financial education and training. And I am certified John Maxwell trainer. So I'm just very passionate about getting women involved in our finances, because as women, we've made a lot of strides, but we still have a long way to go. So it's
Long way.
And particularly a woman in business, that's a double whammy. So that's my passion.
Right. That's right.
So
That's awesome.
Miss Gina, I know Dr. Val was talking about the planning part. And when you're working with women and the small business people, what is that thing that you notice that they just seem to keep missing between the idea and the plan?
What's missing is the implementation. Quite often, particularly if they are just women and if they're in the corporate world, or they're married, and a lot of my women, to be quite honest, are financially okay. They're okay. And because life is relatively comfortable for them at the time, they don't pause long enough to plan for when the realities of life hit. And as women, they will hit us. Because one, we live longer than men, and divorce is real. So if we're married and we're going to outlive our husbands, then we're going to find ourselves solely responsible for our financial livelihood. Or if we're married and, as I said, we end up divorced, again, we're going to be responsible. And in divorce, women tend to come up on the short end of the stick. We take gaps in employment, time out for work, caring for aging parents and children. And so a lot of times when you're getting that paycheck every 2 weeks, you don't really slow down long enough to look at the realities. So that's my job, is just to get women engaged in a community environment to slow them down. And then a lot of times also I find in business, people have misconceptions of working with a financial planner. They think you have to have thousands and thousands of dollars, and it's awfully expensive. So a lot of times they want to sort of like do it yourself until they get it together. They're too embarrassed. So shame holds them back.
That's the one thing I never seem to understand when it comes to health and money. People seem to want to do it all by themselves, and they're going to get sicker and they're going to get broker. This is not cooking where you could just try to like, let me throw this season in here, let me throw that in here, and let's see what comes up, because it just seems to be so chaotic. And here's the problem I have with the Black community specifically. They don't know how to ask for help.
Yes.
They don't know how to reach out to the professionals like Dr. Val and yourself and say, you know what, how do I get that? Not the loan, not the money, but how do I set it up right? How do I get the trademark right? How do I get those trade agreements? Because Dr. Val, you work with a lot of those people getting those licenses, especially when it comes to the African diaspora, of getting that trade agreement. That's a thing that people just need help with. Am I right, Dr. Val?
Yes, absolutely. People do, but there's another element to that question about the missing, element you mentioned about between idea and plan, is the risk aversion. A lot of people, it doesn't matter, be it in my area where I deal with those who are involved in transboundary trade and business. But even within national boundaries, setting up a business is not easy. So moving from that idea to actually implementation, as Gina mentioned, the missing element was implementation, is so hard for some people because they're risk averse. What if I can't do it? What if I'm not able to get a loan? What if, there's so many what ifs. Oh, I've been turned down by 3 banks or 4 banks. And in some cases, oh geez, if it's to export a good a product that I make, maybe I make little crafts, bags or whatever to Africa. I don't know that terrain. I don't know these people. Who are they? Maybe I should read up on them. What if they're corrupt people there? What if, there's so many what ifs, but it's all about risk. Because when you take risks, then those risks yield high returns. You should be ready to fall. You know what I mean? If Steve Jobs did not fall, we wouldn't have Apple phones, right? Because he failed. Remember, he was sacked before he then reinvented himself again. We should be ready to fail. We should be ready to take risks. So it's easy to say, right? Even I am a little risk averse too, right? Nobody wants to take that leap of faith to say, hey, I'm going to do this stuff, so so there are many, bottlenecks here and there, but they could be overcome very easily by just taking that leap of faith, just stepping out to implement, to do what you need to do. But really, I suggest the planning phase is the most critical.
Now,
I was going to touch on that
some
with
would
the
call it the
planning phase.
Right.
I have to touch on that for a second, if I might, because you touched on the right thing. If people say they've tried to apply for a loan and they were turned down, oftentimes it could have very well been they were turned down just because they didn't have the business structured properly in the first place. So if they would have taken the time on the front end to do the planning and actually set up a structure, then the process would have been in place. Oftentimes, some people just they have an idea, then they just run out and start spending money on marketing, order business cards and website and all of this without doing any planning and research. And that's where the failures come in a lot. Just seek out the professionals up front. Right.
Gina, let me ask you this question. When it comes to a great idea, we're past the idea. We're way past the idea. We want to get into planning. And you mentioned something called research. Now, I'm a research fanatic. That's what I'm a scientist by my heart and passion, and doing neurosciences and things like that. It's not just about what you think you know, because things change.
Right.
The research they won't do, and it's too hard. So how do you talk the women, specifically women, into doing the do in the research?
Is that for me?
No, but
yeah. Well, I think, the point is, they say you can lead the horse to the well, but you can't force the horse to drink, right? So it's a matter of, I think mentoring is very important. Mentoring, creating the enabling environment. I don't want to use the buzzword because this is normally used within the context of governments, but even for those of us who work in this sector, in this area, you create those enabling environments through networks. You could have, there are many out there, business networks for women to meet other women, talk to them about the importance of planning. How did you do it? They're sharing experiences. That kind of thing helps them to know how somebody got from A to Z, I think.
And that helps with women because by nature of women, we can be collaborative.
That's right.
That's where, particularly in my financial planning business, I have small group coaching of Smart Women Finish Strong, because we can lean in and learn from each other. And we will share and care and have conversations. So sometimes somebody could share an idea or talk through a process, and another woman might say, have an aha moment. But you hit on it directly, Dr. Val. It's just that community, that creating the environment, the safe space.
That's right.
Now, Gina, Dr. Val, one of her expertise is that overseas licensings and that how do you say it, Dr. Val? How do you want to say it? The
transboundary trade and business.
Transboundary trade, right? Yes. Is there a lot of how come Americans, and we talked a little bit about this before, Dr. Val, how come a lot of Americans don't think about that type of trade overseas? They stay so small inside the United States. Why is that?
The diaspora.
Yeah.
It goes back to exactly what we were talking about. But I'll add to the risk aversion, and I'll add to that information, access to information about what they need to do. A lot of people, and then also the issue of scaling up. Sometimes when you own a business, say if you grow spices in your garden and you really are good at it, but you want to scale up, you need a loan, right? You're going to need a loan to hire more people, staff that you can pay. You need to scale up so you can produce enough to meet demands. Because oftentimes those kind of trade deals do not involve ordering maybe 2 spices or 3 spices. They're mostly require large economies of scale.
Right.
That's right. So you need, it goes back to the planning phase. How do we, short term, how many employees are we going to need? If we have a farm, whatever it is, if it's a textile industry producing clothing, or making clothing, so to say, so to speak, you're still going to need factories, right? You're not going to just be dishing out 2 or 3 per day. If a store in Kenya, Nigeria orders clothing or orders crops or whatever, and vice versa, if it's an African SME that wants to deliver products, and has been given that opportunity via the AGOA. Remember, we talked about AGOA that expires 2025. You're still going to need knowledge as to what to do. Like if you're an African diaspora here, be it African-born or American-born diaspora, and you want to capitalize on AGOA, you're still going to need to register your business. You're still going to get the licensing, bill of lading, the whole gambit, right? That we discussed 2 weeks ago. But you're still going to need to be able to capitalize on the economies of scale. In other words, you need to have large economies of scale to meet the demands out there, because most transboundary trade deals are not chicken stuff. You know what I'm saying? So do you involve yourself with mergers, acquisitions with other companies? Because, this is how companies grow. They grow by merging and consolidating with others. So that's also a possibility, but you need lawyers to help you do that, right?
Dr. Val,
and you need to have trust. You need to know, I'm sorry?
Here's the thing, Dr. Val. Gina, you're working with women who are starting businesses, and do they ever think about that type of business going overseas? And do they ever embark on that, or do they just want to stay in the United States?
Most of the women that I work with are United States based. And part of that is like the fear of scaling up, because it takes money. You have to invest in your business. And a lot of times, if we don't have the financial resources to invest, so that holds us back. And then the fear of just that support. But most of the women that I talk to are looking at local businesses, or some have larger businesses, but when I work with the businesses, not particularly with getting them to start up, it's with getting them to create wealth outside of their business. Because quite often they'll say, well, in terms of retirement plans and savings, they're going to rely on their business. But then if you don't have that structure in place for that succession planning, how are you going to get the money out? So that's actually the area that I work with the business, women in business, is not particularly with the startup phase, but just the managing the money and the resources. Because particularly even when you're starting up, in order to get the money for the business loans, it's still, so the personal credit is so interwoven with the business that we still have to get all of that straightened up as well.
I just don't think enough people in the United States, and I have so many friends overseas and talking with so many different people. There's a lot of good trade avenues and businesses that could grow your business stateside if you grow your business globally. Don't you think, Dr. Val?
If you grow your business global, can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, if you grow I kind of think that
the connection is unstable. I'm not sure. Can you give me a second? It says internet connection unstable. Okay, it's better now. Okay. So
I think not enough people think about starting a business, or not just growing your business, but starting a business with that trade factor in there, with trading to other parts of the country, or parts of the world, where then it could actually explode your business, locally if you do it on a global scale. I mean, I kind of think more global than I think more local, because I think it affects local also globally, if that makes sense.
Like, you're thinking, think local, act global, or
Yeah.
think global, act local. You had that terminology, right? Well, I think that you're hitting at a vital, sort of point, which is the interconnectedness of our globe right now, of the world. We're somewhat in one world. It's somewhat like we live in one world. The landscape has shifted.
Yes.
Globalization has made us, just a stone throw from each other. Because as you know now, even with COVID, it has even done that a little bit more. You can talk with anybody you want overseas in 1 second. Now, if you have a national enterprise, or, in other words, a small, medium enterprise within national boundaries, yes, there are possibilities of expanding globally. It creates that opportunity. But it goes back to what we're saying about the challenges people face in scaling up. What do we do? How do we connect with others who are doing similar things, or even competitors who could provide some comparative advantage to what we're selling? Say, if you have a product, say you're selling, I don't know, if you're selling peanuts, right? If you're in Africa, and somebody else is selling related products, beans or something, and another person is selling water, you could all merge.
Yes.
Because there are advantages to merging. Your products are complementing each other. People may want to buy all of them all at once.
Right.
And the same here too. If you're growing different crops, or if you're maybe making women's clothing and another person, a man, is making men's clothing, maybe the seamstresses, you could merge. Because people who want to buy might want to buy a man's clothing and a woman's clothing, so why not merge? But some of the things we face is trust.
That's
because
yes.
In business,
yes.
I don't know if we black folk are a little bit worse than white folk.
We can stand in our own
way.
We
have, and I'll tell you this. I don't know if I showed you a photo of this photo is marked up, so bear with me, but let me see if I can cover it up. I took this photo. I'm going to sort of cover it up because it's I've used it so many times for so many webinars, or maybe you can see this. I don't know if it's clear. Oh, maybe it's not. See that woman? Is it clear?
Oh, I can see a little bit.
It's not clear. Can you see it a little bit? But anyway, this lady is an informal sector woman. She's the typical face. She sells what you call it? Bolly. It's called bolly. It's roasted plantains, like bananas, on the street corner. I took that photo when I traveled to Nigeria in December of just this last 2019 December. And across the street from where she was, she's what you call an informal street trader, a street hawker, right? And you find a lot of them. In fact, more than 50% of small, medium enterprises are in the informal sector, and that's what they sell, food, right? Food retailers. She owns her business, maybe with her little girl, it's a 2-man, 3-man business, right?
Right.
And across the street was somebody else who was selling water. And then across the street from that person was somebody who was selling like fried beans or steamed beans. Under normal circumstance, those 3 people could merge.
That's a meal.
That's right. But they don't trust each other. Maybe I didn't talk to her to find out why but those are, we're running what you call street law, street policy for economic empowerment, where we go, to talk to these people, to teach them. These are things, I worked in mergers acquisitions years ago in corporate law. And this is just simple M&A stuff, right?
But
merge. All you need to do is sign an agreement.
Dr.
But
Val, here's a question I have. Trust, Gina, when you're doing your public speaking, now you have done a lot of public speaking, it's got to formulate around the word trust, and yet it's just getting missed and missed and missed. And yet we keep trying to do certain things, like Dr. Val said, on our own, when we could just merge.
Yes.
Why is that so? It's like you both said it. Black people get in their own way so much because they don't trust themselves. That's why they don't trust someone else. I understand that about the emotional, but
do you really think they don't trust themselves?
I absolutely believe it starts. It's not that I don't trust you. It's I don't trust me, and I don't have trust. And in that lack of trust, because of X, Y, I'm not gonna get into that, is that I project it now on you. Now, Gina, how do we fix that, or how do you talk to that?
I think it's trust, but I also think it's lack of vision.
Okay.
Just the vision. And that's what I like about this speaking is I find that if you just with me and with the people, if you're just always relatable. I was having this conversation yesterday with some of my mentors, and we were talking about the community, the followers, they're going to buy into, they have to trust you first, the leader first, before they can buy into the vision. So when you are having these conversations and just engaging with people, you have to be relatable so they will feel comfortable and sort of can see themselves in you. So you just can't be like, I'm all this, I'm perfect financially, my world is wonderful and all of this, and I've a perfect 800 credit score, life is great. And then they're like, well, she's perfect. Like, I know. So that's where when I actually got to use my true authentic voice and share my financial journey from being married for several years and then divorced, then I find that they are able to relate better. So you have to have that credibility, but then you also have to have that authentic voice that they can relate to.
Well, I found that,
and it is vision.
I found that most people I know have confidence in themselves, but I think most of what we've talked about is probably what poses challenges to their being able to engage in transboundary trade to the extent that we expect them to. Now, I agree with you, Dr. Dyer, that yes, some do not have confidence in themselves, but it might be because of failed, promises. Maybe the bank didn't deliver or whatever. Maybe that's what it is. But I've also had people who have confidence in themselves, but to the extent that they do, it doesn't transcend maybe to believing that if they merged with somebody else, that it would be better for them than if they did it themselves. And I think that I think part of it too is the networks. I think that we need to build very strong business networks, right?
And that's what
people talk about.
I was going to throw a
white folks play golf. A lot of social networks within the communities, the European communities and white Caucasian communities transcend to business deals.
Yes.
When they say you're a rainmaker in a law firm, you play golf. When I worked in a law firm years ago as a summer associate, when I was still at Stanford Law School in the mid 90s, and this was in California, in LA, I went with them to a very, very exclusive, I think even Tiger Woods was one of the few people in that golf course. It was like a special restaurant that had a massive golf course, and they made all of us play golf that summer. The managing partner, really, they said everybody was all nervous that yes, you have to play golf if you want to be a permanent staff here. And the reason is not chicken stuff. It's not just coincidental. It's because when you socialize, it's used as a means to network, to build trust. Friendships are based on an end result, and it's tied to what Gina said about vision. Vision and mission and purpose is not just the purpose of your company, but you're looking ahead. Who are my networks?
Right.
Because the networks help you build your net worth.
Yes.
And this is not just me. I borrowed it from another, another company that I'm aligned with. That's what they do. They build networks to build their net worth.
Dr. Val,
But
let me ask you both this tough question when it comes to economics, net worth, and networking. This is a juggernaut of a question, I think. Do we have a bank problem for individuals or no? Or is it just a lack of information of how to go through it? Which one is it? Do we have a banking problem, one, or is it just lack of information of how to go through it? Because as you said, Gina, working with women specifically, some women get loans that men get. Some women don't get loans that men get. Some women get loans that men don't get. Some white men, they get all the loans. And then, so where is it a banking problem, or is it because we do, go ahead, I'll just answer that. Gina, go first.
I think it's information. And then a lot of times if you, like particularly I'm in Alabama, and there was monies given out for the COVID relief. And a lot of business owners did not get the money. They weren't eligible for it just because you needed to, one, have a business bank account. You had to have your business set up as properly registered with the state of Alabama. You had to have a business checking account. And you just didn't have the basic structures in place. So without having the structures in place, you couldn't get the money. And then there was this other program that was just closed. The window was open from November 23rd through December 4th. The governor had $20 million and the max you can get was $20,000, and it was a grant. And with such a short window of opportunity, if you didn't know about it, you hear about it, that it's out there, but by the time you sit down and try to do a little research, it's gone. But I was able to get on the call because with my network and with the SBDC, with Alabama State, they had a webinar and they told you exactly what the Revive grant, what you had to do, what they were looking for to be eligible for that grant. And they gave you the exact step-by-step details, and boom, it was there. It was pretty nice too. Dropped in my bank a couple of days ago.
That's absolutely a very good information that you have.
But information is key. Yes. And you have to be, like I said, go back to the planning and just get your business set up properly.
Access to financial knowledge is critical.
Yes.
But
and we don't know everything, and we have to know. Sometimes we think we know everything and we can't receive information, but we have to, as I always say, I never want to be the smartest one in the room. I never. If I'm the smartest one in the room, I'm definitely in the wrong room.
I'm in the wrong room.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that too, it's a bit of both. There's some people face credit worthiness issues besides the access to financial knowledge. There might be some who, and it's not just within the US. I think the series my company had in September 18, we had the minister, I call her minister, but she's permanent secretary of the Ministry of Women and Social Affairs. And she was talking about this problem within the context of Nigeria and most African countries, where women do not know where the money is sitting there, but they don't know where to go and how to even fill out the form. So I think there are problems in some of the communities in Africa, especially the illiterate communities, women who are traders, who are not like the one I showed you earlier, especially in the informal sector. They even have worse problems because they don't even know how to fill out the forms. They don't even know where to go. So the access to financial knowledge is a problem. There's also the credit worthiness element of that. Because if they don't have collateral, they don't have houses, they don't have cars, they walk to where they walk to the, to the whatever, the street corners where they sell their products. So, there's that element of credit worthiness, lack of collateral, and also access to financial knowledge. But I would think an average businesswoman in the US is probably better off because they probably have collateral and they may not have access to financial knowledge, but there might be some who don't have collateral or credit worthiness to be able to get loans to set up their businesses. So it's a mixture of, I think, both.
I was talking to a woman in Ghana last week, actually, and she works with the government, and she tries to get loans for women who's starting businesses in Ghana. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is great. She's in there. She's in the government fighting for access to this money. Like Gina said, it's there. It's supposed to be there, but not enough people do it. And her government and the government in Ghana was having a difficult time actually giving it to her because she was facilitating it to other women to start their own businesses. So now you're running into who's controlling the money and how much you're really going to get, and do they really want to give it to you because they know you're going to be helping X, Y people that they may not want to help. Now that's a whole other issue. Now, how do we tackle that? Because that stops the fear from, I think, doing the research, have the stick-to-itness to get your business going and off the ground, and invest, mentally invest, emotionally invest, physically invest, right? There's a lot of investing that goes on in a relationship, and a business is a relationship.
Oh, yes.
And Gina, how do we get people, and I'll go to Val next, but Gina, I think people have a tough time with relationships, like you said, but if they don't know how to ask for help, ask the question, and seek out someone that can help them, because they're just going, well, this is just going to fail, then I don't know how we can help people or help out people.
Well, I think Dr. Val hit on that. It's like you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So if you just have, that's why I'm real big on collaborations, worksite and community-based with churches and groups in the community, just having the conversations and just making the knowledge and the information readily available. But then it still all comes down to, again, trust, and then it still goes back to the way to overcome that is through relationships. Because, for instance, it's a disadvantaged business enterprise. You can be certified as a DBE, but in order to get that certification, you have to give. They want to see tax returns, they want to see bank statements, they want to see everything. And when it comes to money, it's like, why you need to know this? This is my business. Yeah. So it's like, okay, I don't want to do this because I don't want nobody to know. I don't know about it. Sometimes it's like, it's not as cute as I think as I portray it to be. So I'm just gonna wait till I get it together. Then I'm gonna apply. And it's like, it just never happens. So it still comes down to trust and just have to privacy. We are big on privacy. It's just a lot of information going, but I think it just comes down to just having the conversations, having the dialogue, and having the information available. And when the student's ready, the teacher's going to show up.
You know, so, I hope these shows, I want people to know that they can start trusting the people I have on the show. Reach out to them. I'm going to put your information in the YouTube content, so when it gets put out there, people can have it, because I want people to have the information. I want people to ask the question so they can have understanding. And if you have any questions that you want to call in, type it into the box, and you can call me now at 301-789-3174. You can be on the show, it's live, or you could just, if you see it later, put it in the inbox, say, I did not understand what Gina and Dr. Val was talking about. That's a great question, because maybe there's something in there that can help you build your business, start your business, excel in your business. There's all these different parts of businesses we've been talking about, but ultimately it sounds like it's trust and fear. Dr. Val, we're in trouble then.
Well, trust and fear, risk aversion, right? That's also part of it. And I think there are many people that have succeeded. So we're not sort of trying to sell a doomsday theory here, because there are many who have done well with their businesses. They took risk. But I think the trust element is tied in with those who don't want to merge with others to scale up to the next stage. But even people could have franchises. There are people who own franchises, right? Franchise holders. And that's an easy way if you're not going to go for, say, merging, acquire, with another company. You can, purchase a franchise, right?
Mm-hmm.
From a holder. That's one way, right? To have a business. If there's an existing business, I'm sorry?
Yeah, that's our way. Yeah.
But that's happening. People, let me say that my last trip going to Nigeria, I was pleasantly surprised to see more franchises. People are actually going to Africa now to set up, to African countries to set up, I believe they have Pizza Hut or Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yep.
So you could actually set up a franchise. I always tell my students this in my business class, that when you go to a country and you're nervous about eating anywhere, just look for the closest franchise because you can never get it wrong. It's the same with partnership. If you're too nervous about trust, like, oh, I don't want to merge with anybody, then just take McDonald's or take, I'm not proposing that it's McDonald's, I'm just throwing that out. Just pick a franchise. So, and just, because it's the same trade secret that they have, right? That's why the food tastes the same. So that's another way around being concerned that, hey, I don't want to start from scratch, to have this business. You can go to a foreign country and set up the same food industry in that, you know what I mean? Because the standards are the same, right? Even in France, not just they have McDonald's, they have the whole gambit of fast food and different types of restaurants. Now, on the question of how to overcome the trust issue, I think Gina and I already hammered on the networks and you can lead the horse to the well and, you can't force it to drink, which I alluded to earlier. But I want to say that besides the social, like the different women's groups or women and men's networking groups, there are places like the SBA, the Small Business Administration, where you could go for information. You also the Chamber of Commerce,
But Dr. Val, a lot of those people who are in the SBA and the Chamber of Commerce don't look like me. So that's like I even though they're richer than me, they have been there, done that, and I don't mind talking to anyone. But when it comes to a trust issue, I think that's where it comes into. They don't look like me, but even if they do look like you and they have the same background as you and they can relate to you, it still seems like there's this hesitancy. And I'm going to ask you this, as far as I'm going to get into a specific question about the Black community worldwide. When our women businesses get more developed, will that strengthen the Black community, or is there a man component to this where Black men need to start doing better and that will strengthen our community? Which one you think should come first?
I don't want to do a chicken and egg kind of.
Yeah. I'm like, just work together. We sort collaborate. We all need to come up. We all need to come up
because I'm not one that buys into the idea that you have to develop the girls and forget the boys, develop the boys and forget the girls. Was it not First Lady Michelle Obama, or who was it that was also developing the boys and saying, wait a minute, let's not forget the boys too? Right. Because the whole point of it is this. Our men need to be included in whatever debate we have.
Yes.
I tell people about, even if you go to foreign countries, in villages in Africa, Asia, wherever, right? If you focus only on the women, you're creating high levels of divorce. If you don't bring in the men and the boys, you don't want to emasculate those boys or men either. So I think it's a joint effort, collaborative effort. It shouldn't be an either or. I hate to maybe disappoint you with that answer, but the fact of the matter is this. You can't do it one way or the other. It's a joint effort, right?
You
And I believe in women. You know, the thing about it is, you know, it's funny. My brother, my son just asked me a question about, mommy, you know, my son of last week that I was talking with or 2 weeks ago, he said to me, mommy, you know, the women's movement or feminist movement does that mean they're saying that men should not develop and women should? How does that work? I said, no. It's because women have been disadvantaged for so many years. That's why we need to focus on making sure we educate our girls, we bring them up to speed with where our men are. But that doesn't mean we should hold off on what, because I have a girl and a boy. I said, the same way I wish Sienna well, I wish you well too. Because we want to move women ahead, you know, because women have suffered over many centuries, right? In terms of gender inequality. But our men should also be brought along, because we don't want a situation where the women are advanced and then we start doing the same thing that men did to us for centuries,
yes.
Right? So it's a double-edged sword, so to speak.
The reason why I asked the question is the same reason why your son asked the question, because I hear men who are talking and they feeling left out. And it goes back to that trust and fear thing. I'm like, I listen to the conversations that they are having, and I'm just going to listen, but it made me think of something like, why would you feel left out? Because they want to move this and they are want to do it, and the women can get a black woman can get a loan different than a black man can get a loan. You know what I mean? And so they're like, well, they're leaving us out. Well, no, that's not the issue. But why do you feel like you're left out? So that's why I really asked the question, because I think there are men, not me, there are men thinking it. And that's a problem for me, that where did you come up with this even thought process? You know what I mean? So that's why I asked the question.
No, my son definitely wasn't feeling left out. He was just trying to find out what feminism. He's only 15, just turned 16. So he was just trying to find out what it means, what's feminism, and what does that mean for males. But let me tell you, I think, you know, yeah, it's okay to have funds that are channeled specifically to develop women-owned businesses, right? But that should not undermine possibilities for men in other forums. You know what I mean? There's a place for everything. There are places where, yes, women need to, you know, women-owned businesses need to be promoted, and they need to. It makes good sense, because women have suffered over centuries, right? But that does not undermine the need to also help men and young boys.
I think it's the two together, because women, we are nurturers, and we will be there to raise our daughters and our sons. And if we are financially and emotionally and business savvy, we can transfer our experiences to our families and our communities. And as a result, we can all rise together. And just in terms of also like emotional intelligence and conversations, and like if you get so empowered, you still have to be relational, and that you can't be like, I'm all this and I'm way up here, and then you're talking down to somebody. So it's just finding that balance and just nurturing and supporting each other. But it is definitely a joint process. But a lot of men are, I won't say, well, some men are just intimidated by a smart, bold woman. And as long as she's using her smarts and her gifted abilities to work together, hey, why not? Why not? My son he's 34 and he caught it. He's like, he don't have a problem. He doesn't have a problem. He's gonna do. I said, son, you have to do what you need to do to be a man, and you know the financially. But his wife, she does quite well, and he's not intimidated by it at all. And as long as you're still not bringing that attitude and that edge, it's just a matter of working together. And I think we just have to have those relationships, just work together. And it all still comes back to the conversations. We have to communicate. We have to have the conversations.
Before we take off, Gina, please give people your information where they can get a hold of you if they want to contact you, and then we're going to go to Dr. Val, and then we're going to close out the show. I still want to thank everyone who will watch this, see this, and share this and like this, that this is Bridges Live. I do a lot of shows about information, understanding, and it's just such a variety, but this is about economic development. And what I get to do this takeaway real quick before I hand over to Gina is, we have to ask the question, we have to do the research, and you have to learn the lessons you have to learn, and trust. Just trust a little bit. Go ahead, Gina.
Yes. Okay, yes, I am Gina Hitchens, and I can be reached at 317-418-7333. And my website is www.ghgfinancialplanning.com. And I am a speaker, trainer, financial planner, and coach that specializes in worksite and community-based financial education and training.
God, thank you. And Val, Dr. Val, please.
Yes, I gave mine earlier, but I'll do it again. I'm Val Okaru-Bisant, and I can be reached at www.afrocosdev, AFROCOSDEV.com, and my email is vvictor@comcast.net. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I prefer email to giving me a call, but you can also leave a comment at my website, which I gave you earlier.
You know, we're going to do more. I do more shows. We're getting into this new year. I want to say thank you so much and many blessings. Please stay safe. You're
welcome.
Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. But ultimately, I really think we're going to move so much financial gain in 2021. And here's why I think why. I think people, because of this pandemic, has given people enough courage to say, I don't want to be stuck like this no more. So I really think 2021 is going to be a lot. I hope people contact a lot of us and say, hey, you know what? I'm ready. I'm not doing this anymore. I've been stuck here. I was stuck there. I was fired from this. I was let go of this. I was all this, what they were. Now it's time to be what you can be.
Yes. Embrace change. Embrace change.
Yes.
God bless.
It's very critical.
God bless you. Thank you.
Economic empowerment.
Yes.
And liberation. That's right.
It is economic power and liberation. It's freedom. It is.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right.
All right. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Happy New Year.
Too.
Okay. Bye-bye.
You too. Happy New Year. Okay,
Yes.
bye.